Hey everybody, this is Way to Fail, and today we're going to have a talk. That's right, let's sit down and talk about two games in particular, Hearthstone and Scrolls. Two games that a lot of people play, Hearthstone maybe more so than Scrolls, but I do want to give you all a sort of brief introduction and primer for both, kind of a compare-contrast. If you've paid attention to my channel for a while, you know that I play Scrolls a lot, and I've covered it a lot, so I know it quite well. I also have been getting into Hearthstone as well, and I know it's a game a lot of people have an eye on, so just kind of want to give you the perspective on Hearthstone from a Scrolls player. Brief disclaimer, I play both games. I like both games. It is actually possible in the year 2014 to like two different games at the same time. So this discussion is going to go through a few major topics here. The topics are as follows: gameplay structure, cost and card acquisition, the draft mode in each game's extra features and mods. And there's a lot to talk about with each, but I'm going to try and keep this simple, streamlined as possible. Like I said, this is meant to just be a brief primer. If you have any more questions, feel free to put them in the comments. First topic, gameplay structure. I'm going to give each game some time, and I'm going to start with Hearthstone, which is a game that's very similar to Magic the Gathering. There's a table with cards you lay out on them. Positioning for cards matters to a certain extent in terms of what's adjacent to what, and in terms of card selection, there are 9 different heroes you can use. If you're familiar with World of Warcraft, you're familiar with the different classes. Each class has some cards that only it can use, and then there's a large pool of neutral cards, all of these cards ranging from basic to legendary. Legendary is stupidly rare. Now in terms of the gameplay, there is one opponent. You have to reduce its health from 30 to 0, and that ends the game. In terms of resources, there are mana crystals. It goes up to 10, and you get 1 each turn. There is some cards that will give you extra ones or take them away, but generally it's going to be 1 tick every turn. Nothing to do about it. Decks consist of 30 cards. Once the decks are exhausted, players start taking damage. This means that games are not going to run on for a super long time. Also means that draw mechanics can eventually kill you. Also, much like Magic, units will lose health when attacking, so you can possibly kill your own units by running it into other units. However, unlike Magic, the health is persistent, so once you lose 3 health on a unit, it's gone, unless you heal it, of course. However, if units do have extra life and are only surviving because of a buff that increases their health, they will stay alive if that buff is removed through some way, shape, or form. It does not trigger a health of 0. Another aspect of Hearthstone that stands out is that there are a number of cards that have effects that trigger when you use the card. There's some cards that will trigger when opponents do something, known as secrets. Some classes have them, not all classes do. As far as I know, there's no neutral secrets. In terms of actually playing the game, though, you can play against the AI, you can play unranked play, ranked play. Ranking has 2 tiers, going from rank 25, an Angry Chicken, to 1, the Innkeeper, and then up to legendary. And once you get in legendary ranking, it's permanent. The draft mode for Hearthstone is Arena. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And overall, at least in my experience, games tend to last anywhere between 5 to 10, maybe drag on to 15 minutes depending. But there's no in-game chat, there's only emotes, and there's no really other thing to do other than just focus on playing cards or spam well met at your opponent. Next up, Scrolls. Scrolls plays much more like a tabletop strategy game. There's 15 hexagonal grids on each side, units move around, positioning matters quite a bit more. There's 4 factions to choose from. Each faction can be mixed, so you can have multicolored decks. There's no neutral cards, there's no colorless resources. Cards range from common to rare, and some cards increase resources for different factions. In terms of that, there are on each board 5 10 health idols. The game ends when 3 of those idols are destroyed, which is reducing them to 0, but you have to fight your way through the grids to get there. Each deck consists of 50 cards, at least in constructed play, and players can cycle through the deck and use cards again. So draw mechanics in Scrolls means that you can infinitely go through your deck and play cards again and again and again. Resources aren't capped. I've had some pretty ridiculous experiences with that, both on my end and my opponent's end. Units do not lose health while attacking, so the attacker is favored in that regard, and except for a few specific circumstances. In addition, unlike Hearthstone, units will die if they lose health from a buff, so units' health can be set to 0 if for some reason they're receiving a benefit from another creature that gives them health. There's very few on-summon effects in Scrolls, very few. Some cards let you spend resources or pump out a creature on the board, instead of doing some kind of action. Or you can reduce cooldown. The energy resource has a ton of these cards. It's kind of its thing. In terms of actually playing the game, you can, much like Hearthstone, play against AI, play against unranked. You can play ranked. There's also single player mode in terms of different trials that you can do. There's testing grounds, which is something that's been implemented by the developer to try some different things, or the draft mode known as Judgment. We'll get to that in a little bit. Ranking has one ladder. Everybody's on it. It's not split by region like Hearthstone, which is split between North America, Europe, and Asia as far as I know. But in terms of those games, Scrolls games, I've had them go as short as about 5 or 6 minutes, but typically a typical Scrolls game will last anywhere between 10 minutes to possibly up to 30 minutes. I've had games go as long as an hour though. However, you are not all by yourself there. Scrolls does have in-game chat, for better or for worse. I mean, it's the internet, so it can go either way. Second topic, card cost and acquisition. Hearthstone is a free-to-play game. Now let's keep in mind what free-to-play means. If you spend $0, you get 9 basic starter decks, 1 for each class. And leveling up classes, which all you have to do is play, win or lose, eventually you'll get all of the basic cards if you get each class to level 10. Now buying 1 pack of cards costs 100 gold. You get 1 pack free from pretty much the first time you start playing. But each pack contains 5 cards. 1 will always be rare, but keep in mind that that doesn't guarantee you'll get an epic or legendary. But you can buy up to 55 packs of cards for $50. Remember, free to play doesn't mean free. You can drop real money to buy cards, and some people enjoy that aspect of being able to play catch up if they want to drop some real money on it. But if you want to go the actual free route, you're going to be doing daily quest, which you do get 1 per day. They offer anywhere between 40 to 60 gold, and then there's a number of one-time gold rewards as well, such as 100 wins giving 300 gold, or the aforementioned leveling up every class to the level 10 getting 100 gold. Now, one big red flag in terms of card acquisition for Hearthstone is that there is absolutely no trading in the game. If you want a card, you have to destroy some of your other cards, get dust, and then craft your own cards, or just hope that you get it from what you buy. Now, that is a big difference from a lot of other card games, which do allow chat, which do allow trading. There's not even a chat channel outside of the game for Hearthstone. But Blizzard has their own goals for why they're doing this, not really in the scope of this video. Scrolls, on the other hand, you pay $20, you get the game. You get to choose from 1 of 4 starter decks. The pre-built decks, there are pre-built decks and avatars which can be purchased with shards, which are real money, or in-game gold. There's individual scrolls that cost 100 gold, a 10-pack costs 1,000. You cannot purchase these with shards, so if you want to get a bunch of cards and scrolls, you've got to play the game. You can earn gold by playing games, winning or losing, by earning achievements, or otherwise just trading unwanted cards. If you do want to buy scrolls with some of your real money, you can on a rotating basis. Every 3 days there is a box of 6 cards available for individual purchase. You can buy it with in-game gold or shards. So key difference between Scrolls and Hearthstone, at least in my experience, is that it is a lot easier to get started in Hearthstone. You have a lot more cards available to you. You can make some pretty viable decks that'll get you going, get you started. Scrolls, you really got to get your feet to the ground, try and acquire some key cards early on. However, if you're going to be trying to play at a high level, in Scrolls you can get the cards that you need just by playing, grinding gold, getting it together that way. In terms of Hearthstone, if you want to go get the best card, you're going to have to hope to get really lucky in terms of what you draw, or just dump money into it. So there's benefits to each, but just keep that in mind. It's free to play. Hearthstone maybe a little easier to start out, but Scrolls easier to get into very competitive play because the key cards can be bought by in-game currency and traded for. Now, another key aspect and one of my favorite parts of each of these games is the draft mode, because if you don't necessarily, or if you're not able to necessarily get all the cards that you want, why don't you go play the draft mode where everybody is created equal in terms of here. First one is Hearthstone, which is the arena mode. You get to draft 30 cards and make a 30 card deck from sets of 3 cards. Rarity is the same for each card selection, so you get to pick from 3 cards. They could be 3 basic or common cards, they could be 3 rare cards, they could be 3 legendary cards, but every selection has the same choice. There is no mulligans. Those 30 cards you get is the 30 cards you get. Now, in order to play, you can either pay $1.99 in real American money at least, or you can pay $150 in-game gold, and that is money that you can actually earn back by playing. Generally about 7 wins net you enough gold to play again. You can also get dust from winning, or cards. People prefer to get gold though. Now, in terms of Hearthstone's arena, you can play up to 14 games with the same deck. It's either the first of either 12 wins or 3 losses. So you can get 4 wins, 3 losses. You could get 11 wins, 3 losses. You could get 12 wins and no loss. And players are matched up against each other based on a hidden MMR rating, but it's based on how you're doing that time in arena, which means your first game you could be matched up with anybody. But if you go 0-2, you're going to be very likely matched up with other players that are going 0-2. So Hearthstone, I say the arena mode is probably one of the strongest parts of it. Plus, whenever you play arena, whether you lose entirely and just flame out, or you win out all the way, you get at least 1 pack of cards. So playing arena is probably the best way to get cards if you're not going to be throwing real money at the game. As for scrolls, you get Judgment. Judgment is the draft mode. You draft 45 cards, and from those 45 cards you make a deck of 30 cards. You get to choose from a set of 4 scrolls or 4 cards. They are not split up by rarity. You can have 3 cards in a row that are common and then 1 rare card, and then the choice is really obvious which one you take. There's no chance to reconstruct the 30 card deck after it is built. I've been burned by that the first time I played, and the cost is 1,000 in-game gold to play, or you can play with real money, and both of these games will let you play arena for free the first time around, so feel free to derp it up early. But in Judgment for scrolls, you play 5 games with the same deck, win or lose, 5 games, that's it. And when you're done with those 5 games, that's it. And you're matched up, much like Hearthstone, with people who have similar ratings to you, or a record to you in that round of Judgment. However, because Scrolls does not have quite the player base that Hearthstone does, you're going to get a little bit more variety in terms of what kind of decks you're facing. Now, in terms of winning for Judgment, your rewards will have some gold in it, but in addition, depending on how you do, you get to actually pluck cards from your Judgment deck and put them in your collection. Now, that can mean if there's some cards you really like from Judgment, you can hold on to them and keep them depending on how you do. But more importantly, if you get 3 wins, you'll get some gold, and generally you can pick a rare out of your card that you can flip in the trade channel, get more gold, and play again. So in terms of Judgment for Scrolls, it's much easier to play again and again and again. But I would say that Hearthstone probably does have the superior version of drafting, if only because of the fact that when you select cards, you get to they're stuck on this, or they're selected by the same rarity, so the choices are usually more meaningful, although once you get experience, a little more clear cut. Either way, both modes are very good. Finally, extra features and modes. I'm going to start with Hearthstone. Hearthstone's is kind of short because the game is still in closed beta, to be released in open beta soon, TM. If you're familiar with Blizzard, you know what I'm talking about. However, there are planned extra microtransactions for the game, because it is a free-to-play model here, that include different card backs, more deck slots. Those are the ones that I've seen confirmed. There's also been discussion in terms of throwing a spectator mode in there at some point, but who knows when it will be in there. Scrolls, on the other hand, because it has been released in open beta for a while, there has been a lot that has been implemented. There is a spectator mode in place. You can watch matches on a 5-minute delay. Achievements have been introduced, and achievements will actually reward you in-game gold. And some of those achievements are really easy to get, so it's a good way for players to start out. Furthermore, Mojang has continued its tradition of having its game being fully moddable, so the community has released quite a few mods that increase quality of life, help maybe improve trading. There are some replay mods, However, in terms of the player base right now, some of those mods have kind of gone a little bit to the wayside. Some people have been working back to get there, but still, at least in a perfect world scenario installation of Scrolls, you can have improved trading on there, improved chat, and you can also record your games and share them with your friends or post them online. Scrolls definitely takes the extra features and mods out just because Mojang's opened the door for the community to take a look there. So that's a brief-ish look at both of these games, Hearthstone and Scrolls. They're both good games, they're both well worth your time. There's some significant differences as well, and if you're looking for me to not fence sit and sort of pick a side, I'll just tell you this much. Hearthstone has a much larger player base. The games do not take nearly as long, and you can focus more on playing the game than necessarily drama or people spamming you in chat, although you'll get some emote spam that you can squelch from time to time. If that's your thing, go for Hearthstone. In terms of Scrolls, Scrolls is a game that requires a lot of strategy and thinking just because of the positioning on the board. Games tend to take longer as a result, but because of the way that you can acquire cards with in-game currency as opposed to real money, it's a lot easier to get to high-level competition in Scrolls and get the top cards. So if that's more your deal, Scrolls is good too. I mean, you can pay 20 bucks for Scrolls, or you can drop $20 in real money for Hearthstone and get some cards to possibly get you started with your basic stuff. Either way, both good games, both worth checking out. But that's it for now, at least for me. This is Way to Fail. You'll be seeing more content from me on both of these games in the future. No, I have not abandoned either, or obviously not Hearthstone because I haven't posted any other content here. I have not abandoned Scrolls either, and that's not the plan. Like I said, you can like two things at the same time. Who knew? So thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. If you're just catching this video here, feel free to subscribe, leave comments, tell me what you think. If you've played Hearthstone or Scrolls, feel free to leave your comments as well. Otherwise, this is Way to Fail. Take care.